Back in August, Comedy Hype released a story on comedian Doug Williams, who participated in the roast of Emmitt Smith back in June of 2003. The event was hosted by Jamie Foxx and featured a panel that included Monique, Joe and Guy Torry, Michael Irvin, Jeff Ross, and the late Dick Gregory. Doug's story got a positive reception on Comedy Hype, as many were excited to see what Doug has been to following that infamous night. So joining us to dive into it all, we have the one and only Doug Williams. Doug Williams, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. You said that I participated in the roast. I don't think I was just there. I don't know how much I participated.
No, you participated. You participated in it, brother.
We gonna get to it. Don't worry about it. But also we have Pierre calling into the Comedy Hype. How are you doing, Pierre?
Fabulous. Enjoying it. Come on, family. Comedy Hype. I'm excited about my man, Doug Williams. I've known him for years. I sold him one of his first cars. You remember that? Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
He did. That's a true story.
Okay, well, we're gonna have to get into that. Now, Doug, I know you're from Alabama and you made the move to LA for comedy. For people that aren't too familiar with your career, what made you want to take that leap cross country?
Well, there was a group of us, me, Ricky Smiley, Henry Welch, Steve Brown, the Berry Boys. We had been doing comedy in Alabama, and Alabama's not synonymous with comedy or show business in general. So I felt like I needed to get close to the action. So I decided to, pack up and move out to Los Angeles. And, the game is played in Los Angeles, New York now, Atlanta. But at the time, it was mostly for film and television. This was '95. It was Los Angeles.
So what was that moment or that mindset that said, I'm going to believe in myself enough to take this leap?
Well, most of my friends were working at the chicken factory, cutting meat, just those blue collar factory jobs. And I just, I wasn't cut out for that. I just like, I'm not going to be wringing chickens' necks and plucking chickens and, cutting meat. Not that I'm looking down on that, but that wasn't for me. So I wanted to come out to Los Angeles and, take a shot at it or what have you. And it was an exciting time, being from Montgomery, Alabama, small town, to go to a big city. And I was used to that because I was traveling doing comedy. So I was going to all of these cities and seeing different life. And I just felt it was a challenge that I wanted to meet.
But Doug, let me ask you a question real quick. Coming from a small town, going out there's not many believers in people who can make it out there because they don't really see a small town person make it, especially you're talking about in the 90s, early 90s. So did you have a lot of pushback of going out there? Was you intrepid? Was it trepidation? Yeah, intrepidation, that's the word. Intrepidation to going out there, you know what I'm saying? Because, brother, California, LA is the top. If you don't make it there, you back in Alabama cutting them chickens up, Playboy.
Right. Yeah, there was, man. I mean, it was, for my family, show business was never heard of. In all the people that I knew, nobody ever considered, going out to Los Angeles or becoming a star or being in front of the camera or whatever. It was just, like I said, just blue collar jobs. People worked for the factory. People worked for the post office. It was those type of jobs. So when I presented that to my family, they were like, it's a lot of skepticism or what have you. But, you and I both know, Pierre, that this is comedy and entertainment is a love that you have to have because we've done it for so long without being paid. We've done it and we're still doing it for the love of it. So this was a passion that I had, something that I loved and I wanted to do. So whether I made it or whatever the degree I made to, it was irrelevant to me. It was something that I was in love with and I wanted to see where it would go.
Did you give yourself like a time limit to come back if it ain't going to pop for you, like in 5 years, 2 years? What did you give yourself when you went out? Did you give yourself even time?
No, well, you know what, man? I had gone to college and studied communications. So, either way, I knew I didn't plan on coming back. I knew either way.
No plan B.
No plan B. It was just, all or nothing. No plan B. And, most of us in this game, that's how we are. It's no plan B. It's,
Nah, this some suckers got plan
all right,
B. Trust me,
Pierre.
this some niggas got plan B out there.
We
Okay.
know.
B, C,
all right, so
and D.
you're
Okay.
in LA and you get that call to participate in Emmitt Smith's roast. You're able to join the stage with Monique, the late Dick Gregory. How were you able to get that opportunity?
So let's just, let me walk you into what happened with that because that wasn't my plan. I had just gotten with a manager and he was looking for opportunities for me and this one came up. And when he called me, I'm not a roast type of comedian. I mean, this was a foreign territory to me. I was still relatively new in the game here in California, because there's a stand-up comedy game, and then there's a game that's played here in California. Mm-hmm. So, I was really reluctant to go do the roast or what have you. But, and under normal circumstances, I probably would have said, nah, I don't want to do that. But I had just gotten with this manager. This was the first thing that he presented to me. So I didn't want to say no. And Pierre can attest to this. When you get with these management companies, when you get with these agencies or whatever, when they present you with something first out of the gate and you go like, no, I'm not doing that, then that could cause problems. So it was more so to satisfy, my obligation to him as a manager. And this was a big time manager. So, I agreed reluctantly to do it.
So before this experience, you had never had any experience with roasting? Never had any experience with roasting. Never any experience with, bagging, joking, going back and forth. I've never been that type of person. And Pierre can attest to that. I mean, I've known Pierre now for north of 25 years. And, that just hasn't been my thing.
Can I ask you something? Doug, not disrespectful way, but you were the lowest on the totem pole, kind of in that room. You know what I'm saying? People didn't really know who you were.
Absolutely.
So is that intimidating because you don't know how far you could go? Because hold on, I ain't got no clout here. So when it comes time to roasting, that actually adds a little element of should I go this far? Should I not go this far? I ain't nobody up here. So, you know what I'm saying? Did that play a part in how you felt when you was on there getting up there to roast, that you didn't really feel that comfortable, one, and then wasn't small?
So if we get, just skipping time, and I guess we'll go back and forth to this or what have you. I was there. It was like a rookie playing his first game with the pros or what have you. I was, among elite talent. And what a lot of people don't know, man, because you have a lot of people that come out, after the fact. And I always say it's like people saying, now I wouldn't have picked no cotton back then, man. What I would have done, man, so you had to be there. So what people didn't see, the backstory to that is that before that show started, Jamie went out in front of that crowd. And sometimes I think that a lot of stuff was premeditated, because he went out before that crowd and just wowed them for about 30 minutes while they were getting everything set up. He sang songs, he did comedy, he had them eating out of the palm of his hand. So he almost, kind of stacked the deck. So if anything happened, he had, and Pierre can relate to this from doing stand-up with live audience. Once you get an audience, you get them. You can talk about whatever you want. You can talk about date rape. If they love you, they love you. So he had them eating out of the palm of his hands before that show even started. And I found that odd that I heard him say in the back before we got started, he said, hey, don't ever turn my microphone off. Now, if you've ever seen roast, typically the host is not mic'd up all the time. His mic is not there to where if he says this. So he wanted his microphone to stay on at all times. And he had that crowd eating out of the palm of his hand. Before we started, that was his crowd. So that, I just want to preference it by saying that. So that kind of limited me, when everything started. I knew that, I was in my head. So it wasn't too many plays. I mean, anything that I said was just going to be on a personal note, or something that would have probably got a ooh or something or something in retrospect, looking back, that you might say, oh, that was a good one or what have you. But I don't think anything that I could have done would have caused that crowd to join me as opposed to being Jamie or turn on Jamie.
So before even diving straight into the roast, without having experience in roasting, how did you prepare for the night?
I didn't, and that's what you saw. That was no preparation at all. And it's funny because while I was sitting there, I didn't even have anything set to go. I mean, I was completely caught off guard. I didn't even have anything set to talk about Emmitt or to talk about Shaq or whatever. So a lot of the stuff that I was doing was just, I was truly just winging it or whatever. And it's funny because I was sitting there and I was like, when it was going on, I was like, I really don't want to be here. I really contemplated on just getting up and leaving, but I stuck it out. But yeah, there was no game plan at all. Everything
Thanks for not leaving. Thanks for not leaving, nigga. You in the history, the annals of black comedy, because you didn't leave. So thank you, sir.
And that's a little surprising to me because I know Jamie talked a little bit about, before the show you were, kind of thinking you were the hot stuff. Is there any truth to that?
No truth to that at all. Now, I'm going to tell you guys, what I'm telling you is the honest to God truth of what happened that night. Pierre knows me, and I'm glad Pierre came on this call or whatever. You've known me for over 25 years. Have you ever known me to be braggadocious? Have you ever known me before a show? And I've done several shows with you. Have you ever known me to be saying, yeah, I'm gonna rip this, I'm this. It's just, and I don't know, like he said, he was drinking that night. So, maybe he was drunk and maybe that's what he thought he heard. Maybe somebody told him that or whatever, but that's the farthest thing from the truth. Keep in mind, I'm in a place I'm unfamiliar with. I don't want to be there. It wouldn't. What would it behoove me to be back there bragging? I mean, nobody like
you, brother.
No, nobody knew me on that show, so there was no reason. I mean, that's like a rookie stepping on the court with LeBron James and all these people, like, yeah, I'm a dog you, I'm gonna do this or whatever. There was no reason for me to be braggadocious or saying. In fact, it was the opposite. I was so quiet you could hear a rat pissing on cotton back there. That's how quiet I was at the backstage trying to get my thoughts.
Doug, I really believe this. I really believe because of the backlash that he received, he had to come up with an excuse. And the excuse was you wouldn't ask behind the stage. That's what it really came down to. Because I know you personally, that ain't who you are. In fact, you kind of stand off. You kind of so quiet in the corner. We don't that ain't even you.
And Pierre, what was the first interaction when you two met, when you met Doug Williams?
What happened?
What was the first interaction when you met, like your first interaction when you met Doug Williams? What was that like?
Oh man, that's so long ago. He gave me $2,200 off of my car. That's what it was the first interaction.
When I met Pierre, Pierre and I met on the battlegrounds. I mean, my memory of him is just seeing him at different places. To his credit, Pierre was, probably a little bit more established than I was. He was coming from DC. We saw each other a few times here. And I never will forget, I told Pierre this about Pierre and I worked a cruise ship a few months ago, right before the pandemic hit. And I never will forget something he said to me that at the time he said it, it didn't sink in. But as I got further into the business, it really did sink in. And one of the things he said was, man, keep pushing, because no matter how long you've been in this game, whenever you hit, you'll be brand new. And that's the truth. You see these comics, for example, Bernie Mac. People thought Bernie Mac was just fresh on the scene. Bernie Mac had been doing comedy, close to 20 years before he hit, but he was the hottest thing. And that has always resonated. I never will forget, we were outside the Comedy Act off of Crenshaw, and we were preparing our sets and whatever, and we got into a conversation, and he told me that, and that sticks with me to this day.
I said that because I thought it was going to take you 50 years to make it, nigga, so I was trying to help you out.
Pierre, what about you? What about your side? Because I know you said you've known him for a long time, and the things that were said about Doug was not what you know. So from your side, what was the relationship like with Doug, or what is the relationship with Doug like?
Doug is about that business. I'm going to tell you that right now. Doug doesn't socialize, and unfortunately, sometimes when he doesn't socialize, people think he's standoffish or whatever, but to say braggadocious, no. But he's not very, cliquish. He's not a cliquish kind of comic. But if you get to know him, he's very generous. He'll help you out. He'll do almost anything for you. But it's just some people have more of a personality. Like Kevin Hart is more, hey, walk into the room, what up to everybody. Doug is not that kind of person. And some people, because you're not like that, you're supposed to. See, a lot of people think comedians are supposed to be on all the time. Be funny. Like, man, bro, we ain't got to be funny all the time. And sometimes Doug will be in the corner just watching, chilling, observing things. I went through the same thing, and people thought I was, too arrogant or whatever it was. They're like, nah, I'm watching how it's played out. But now I got to walk into a room and say what's up to everybody. Now everybody think I'm the coolest comic around. It's like, no, I'm still the same person. It's just that. And with Doug, he's always been kind of, to himself because he's about that business. And he's more, he'll give you everything on stage. I don't think he felt he has to give you everything off stage. That's just my opinion.
And Chris Rock is like that too. If you've ever,
Chris Rock is like that too.
Chris Rock is almost the same way. It's funny because when I met him, I felt the same way. It's like you would never know he's in the room when he's standing there. And I've been around him and worked with him too, and he's the same way.
So to paint the picture, so we're in the night. You haven't done it before, but you're sitting there and you're about to go up. I'm pretty sure you're probably feeling nervous. You get in that moment. What's going through Doug Williams' mind?
I had a chance to meet Shaq. So, Shaq was just really nice, man. He made everybody feel. He came in, he spoke to all of us. He told us just relax, to have fun, or what have you. So that helped a lot, He was very personable. I had a conversation with him. We talked a little bit. He would say, how long you been doing comedy, this and that, and this and that. So that kind of put me at ease. But I'm going to be honest with you. I really did feel, honestly, and I call it intuition or whatever. I felt like that, that Jamie was going to do something like that to me because, of like probably what Pierre said, you know what I mean? I've never been the type of person, and I want to be careful in what I say because I'm not trying to expose or talk about anybody. But, a lot of these guys, these celebrities, they have, like Pierre said, they have cliques. They have people that get around them that worship the ground they walk on. They can do no wrong, that uplift them, that are always there to make them feel like they're, the man. And I've never been that way. So, and I'm just jumping ahead. Maybe he felt like, I was standoffish. Maybe he felt, that I didn't, give him the props that he deserved or what have you. Maybe he felt that way that night. I don't know.
Did you and Jamie Foxx interact at any moment before you got on stage?
He did. He came and he spoke to me. He wasn't rude to me. He wasn't disrespectful to me. He came, he said, hey, man, he knew who I was. There is a backstory, to our relationship. We've seen each other a couple of times and this and that. And like I said, I just, I've always been the type of person I speak and this and that, but I'm not a person that's going to be, I don't run behind people, or I'm not going to try to be in your presence because I feel like it might, do something for me. I have too much faith in God. I believe in God, and I think God has the last word. So I've never been cliquish out here. You do have comics that hang around these comedians just because they feel like something might come, some crumbs might come for the table, come from the table. I've never been that type of comedian. So I don't know. I'm saying maybe he felt some kind of way about that because, there were comics there that did not perform who were in awe of him, so.
Well, but let me ask you something, Doug, and again, from a comics perspective, we roast. This is what we do. It's a roast, and Jamie's a good roaster. I think he saw somebody's failing, not doing well at a moment, and he decided to pounce on you. It was just what it is. Now, I think also you're low on the totem pole, so you become a better victim opposed to had it been someone better, Joe Torre doing that or Guy Torre, he might not wanted to stomp on him so bad. But you, who are you? You ain't nobody. You kind of a no name on the show.
Absolutely.
So shit, let me pounce on this dude and whip his ass with all these jokes because the crowd's on my side, they're not on his side.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to get the best of it. And it's a moment. And a moment
Absolutely.
is what it is.
You're 100% correct. Your perception of that is correct. Nobody knew me. I mean, it's kind of like the bully on the playground that looks around and sees, okay, I'm not going to mess with this guy. I'm going to mess with this guy right here, though. I can take it. I can take. So I do feel like that there was a lot of that. I mean, if you go back and look at that tape and you look at the people who were there, everybody had some type of notoriety. I was the only one there who hadn't done anything, didn't have, any credits, anything under my belt, maybe, a couple appearances on BET, but that was it. So, yeah, I do feel like, you spot on with that. Spot on with that.
So as, you get on stage, you're going into your set, and then you start hearing Jamie chime in. Do you think you were prepared to be roasted?
What's funny about that? There's an old saying that goes, there had to be at least 1,000 comebacks that I could have done. But at the time, I couldn't think of one. I literally froze up. And what's funny is when I came off, I'm not going to mention the celebrity, but they came up to me and they said, why didn't you mention the fact that he got knocked out by LL Cool J? All you had to do was say, I might not be doing it, but at least I didn't get knocked out by LL Cool J. There was so many things that I could have said that I just froze up. I mean, I really became a victim of the moment. I froze. I could think, because I was already a little bit discombobulated being up there. And, Pierre knows as a comedian, you're trying to just get your general focus on what am I going to say. There's so many things that goes on in a comedian's head when he's performing. Pierre and I have had this conversation. People don't know the inner workings of a comedian. You think that we're just up there telling jokes. There's so many things. You're trying to gauge if this joke is getting the laughter that it's used to, whether you should continue on this course, whether you should move a joke forward. If something's not going well, you got to step out of your routine, maybe speak to. So there's so many moving parts to what a comedian is doing. And in that realm of just trying to assess where I was, what I saying working, I was lost in the moment. And then when he hit me with that, it just pushed me off the top. I was just like, man.
So looking back now, what are some of those things that you would have said?
Well, you know what? I just said, I'm not gonna, because I know Jamie Foxx is gonna see this, so I don't want to come out and I don't want to, rehash this thing or whatever. But the number one thing that I was thinking of, or that I was told, I went, I didn't think about that. Not long before that incident had happened with him and LL Cool J. So, that was the number one thing that I could have brought up that I really could have played on or what have you, because, I don't think that he was very fond of what happened with that and the way he was portrayed. But you know what? In retrospect, though, I look at it like, the way I handle it the way I am. Right. So, I was really true to who I am in the sense of whatever. But I'm gonna tell you, man, it was a moment. I don't know if you've ever had a moment in your life where you're just at a loss for words, where you just and it's being filmed. It's kind of like Will Smith said. Racism hasn't gotten worse. It's just being filmed. The difference is we've all been at that moment where we are at a loss for words, or we're in a moment where you're embarrassed and you can't. The difference is mine was just filmed. So that's
but
where it was.
Doug, let me ask you something. This is because we both comics. People have to understand that just because you're a good stand-up don't mean you're a good roaster. That's the first thing we got to understand. And just because you're a good roaster don't mean you can do stand-up. There's two different things. People think they're together, but it's not. And the problem is, like I said, sometimes they hired you thinking because you're a comic, you're going to be able to roast well. It's not a knock on you. That's just not your style. That's not your thing. So, putting you in that position, that's why you were lost for words. You're not that kind of comic that knows to do those kind of things. Then you probably had stuff planned for everyone else and not as much on Jamie. And then the Jamie attacks, then you're like, well, damn, I have material for Emmitt, for this, and not even for Jamie. So now you're stuck up there.
By him. Completely. And I'm so glad you're on this interview, Pierre, because you are helping to convey what we do for a living, and a lot of times we do it so well that people don't realize how much work goes into it. I mean, when you see Pierre performing, when you see me perform, there's 25 years of our lives that we've put into this. What people don't see are the times that we've been booed off stage, the times that you damn near had to fight in front of a black crowd when you come off because somebody was like, man, I paid my money and that's all, So, like I said, there are a lot of inner workings, and he's right. Everything that you just said is spot on. You've been spot on everything that you've said as it pertains to this role. So
yeah, that's why they got me on the show, home.
Come on now, don't boost it. Don't see, and that's what I'm saying. Don't boost his head up, because I gotta live with that, Doug. I gotta live with that. So I do want to ask you, Doug. So in the moment, you're hearing Jamie, and he's talking as you're conscious. Did you find any of it funny? Whether it's then or now.
It took me a long time to get past that. Now, to his credit, I do want to say this, that when that happened, there was no internet. We filmed that about a year before it came out. So people say it came out 2002, 2000. We filmed that, if I recall, about 2000, if I'm not mistaken. So there was no internet. There was no social media or what have you. It was just supposed to go on DVD. So his intentions weren't to do something that would go global like that would take off like that. I mean, I think that was the first video on YouTube that really took off. And so that wasn't his mindset. But yeah, after it was over with, I just remember feeling like, this dude just humiliated me. And there wasn't a reason for it. You know what I mean? There wasn't because here's what bothered me about the roast. And Pierre can attest to this. We've all had where we've been emceeing and somebody comes up and they do bad and we go on and say, hey, you shouldn't wear that shirt. You shouldn't. But we always have a redeeming quality after that. Hey, that's my man. Give it up for him. Hey, man, he trying, brother. Keep doing it. There was no redeeming quality. He didn't come back after that and say, hey, man, this guy's new on stage. I got him or whatever, but give it up for him or whatever. There was nothing to build me up. He did it. And at the time, I felt that there was some militia behind it. That was somewhat malicious, because out of all the people who needed something positive to happen on that panel, I did. Because I was at a point, I didn't have any money. I didn't have any notoriety. I was struggling to just try to do something to further myself. I mean, I was foreign out here. And given the fact that like Pierre said, out of all the people up there, I had no notoriety, no anything, I felt that there should have been some type of redeeming message after it was finished. Like, hey, you know what, man, give it up for this guy, man. He took it well, he didn't come back. And none of that was done. So, yeah, I did feel some kind of way. And right after it was over with, and I don't want to brag on this or whatever, but at that time, I was heavy, and Pierre can attest, I was heavy into martial arts. I was heavy into what you see the UFC now, ground fighting, grappling, and I was really good at it. And so right after that, you know, I was on the borderline. Should I go just handle him? Should I go handle him as a man? Because I was really confident in my abilities. And right after that, he came up to me and he said, hey, man, yo, man, this is how it goes or whatever, man. Don't take it personal. He consoled me for about 5 minutes. He said, hey, man, you know, when I did my first, you know, thing or whatever, who's the guy, Al Bundy, he said, had roasted him, had, you know, got off on him or whatever. So he said, hey, man, just charge it to the game. It's part of the game. And I think I said to him, you know, yeah, man, but that was a bit excessive. He was like, hey, man, it's all part of the game. So he did after the show. And I almost, you know, I wish you had said this while we were on stage, you know, while this was being taped. That's what you should do. But where's somebody to tape this? There were no camera phones back then. So he did give me some reassuring things after the show. He came to me because, you know, I was in my feelings, and I really wanted to step to him man to man and say to him, yo, man, for you to do that to me, you know, I'm up here, whatever, trying my best to make it or whatever, for you to step on an opportunity like that, you know, but he came up to me right after.
So given that time, what would you tell Jamie Foxx now?
Well, you know, I've seen him since then, you know, so, you know, and let this be understood, there's no beef between us. There's no, you know, no hard feelings or whatever. You know, I did this show right here behind me. I mean, this is one of the shows that was in the story called The First Amendment, stand-up. So, and Pierre was on that show. A bunch of people were on that show. In fact, Dick Gregory was on that show. I think it might have been the last live taping that he did. And I've seen Jamie. Jamie had a Fox radio show. So he extended an invitation because we were promoting this show.
Right.
So he extended an invitation for me to come and promote the show there at his Sirius. It was the Foxhole. I don't know if that's still up.
Was that the first time y'all had spoken since the incident?
We've spoken quite a few times since the incident, and he's always been very gracious, you know, very because I really do believe that Jamie looked back at that roast when it went viral and from what is happening, and I really do feel he felt, and he's never said this to me. He's never said, "Hey, man, I'm sorry," but he's been very ingratiating. You know, every time he seen, "How's it going, man?" Is this that, and you know, he was on my street. It's weird. It was a weird coincidence. He was on my street, and I think he was lost. And he saw me, and I was with my kids or whatever. And he pulled over, and he got out of the car, and my kids knew him from Spider-Man. You know, that's Electro. And, you know, I had to remind him. I said, no, that's the dude that roast daddy or what have you. Because, you know, I became really popular. I became really popular with my kids' friends as a result of that roast. A lot of them came to know me. They didn't come to know me because of anything I did. They came to know me because of that roast. And every year that roast turns over. So every couple of years, a whole new generation sees that roast with him. So he smiled, he laughed, he talked with them or what have you. He took pictures with us. And this was just an impromptu moment. He gave me his cell number, his email. He was like, hey, man, call me. Let's hook up. Let's try to do some things or what have you. So, you know, I want that understood that, you know, we've been nothing but friendly since that roast.
I think not the problem, but I think the thing is you're a nice guy and you expect to play nice 95% of the time. And in this business, brother, you know that ain't the situation. Absolutely. So yes, when we get a chance to roast and be what it's going to be what it's going to be. Sure, he should have said something nice to you, but you learned that at that moment. It ain't like that. You know what I'm saying? Everyone ain't nice as you and say, my bad, give it up for him, give him a hug. But it's not how it works. So you might have to grow up quickly. I mean, you know, comedy-wise in this business, say, oh, okay, I see how this thing go. Not saying it's going to change you, but just so you understand, everyone's not going to play nice.
And, you know, to that point, the sad reality of this game is this. And here again, like I said, I'm glad Pierre is on to co-sign what I'm saying. Every Black comedian, and I want to, you know, emphasize, I can only say Black because I lived in that world. Every Black comedian that you see become a huge star in this business, there were people along the way that he befriended, that were close to him, that he confided in, that helped him. And I always say, whenever you see a Black comedian make it, you should see at least 2 or 3 other people pop up as a result of that. And, you know, to that example, Chris Rock is a great example of that. When you see that I can't remember the guy, Pootie Tang, when you see J.B. Smooth,
Lance Crothers.
yeah, when you see Wanda Sykes, these were all people that he broke bread with that are living, that are eating right now, not depending on him. In other words, he put them in a position to where they didn't need him. He didn't just let them open up for him or have to need him when it was time to go through things. Kevin Hart is another guy that's living that. Kevin Hart had a few people, and we used to see him at the comedy clubs. Joey Wells. These people, I mean, I think they called themselves the Plastic Cup Boys. These were all his homies, all his friends that rode with him, and all of those guys are doing well as a result of his success, to the point to where they don't need him. If he decides tomorrow to retire, these guys can still go on. So, you know, that's always the case in the Black community. You know, we are a dysfunctional family. And unfortunately, that's not the norm. I mean, I'm just speaking to Pierre's point. People make it, and for whatever reason, they don't reach back. They don't look out for the people that had their backs or whatever. They feel like, and with us, and I say this reluctantly, in the Black comedy world, it's almost like we get a kick out of being able to pull up to the club in a nice car, you know, and look and say, man, these guys are still out here struggling. I remember when I used to be there. Thank God I'm not where they are, and drive off. You know, I'm just keeping it 100. Pierre, maybe you can speak on it, but it's real. I mean, there's no reason.
I do that now. My bad. I start going in the clubs. My bad. You make me feel bad now. I pull up in my whip and say, damn, I'm glad I'm not one of them niggas in line.
Pierre parks right in the front. Right in the front every time he walks into the studios.
Hilarious.
Pierre, I did want to ask you, though. I know Doug said he's not going to, you know, he doesn't have anything, or a lot of things that he would say about the roast. But what would be some things that you would have said on stage if you were to roast Jamie Foxx, Pierre?
Me? Oh shit! Yeah, man.
Be careful, man. Be careful. That's a setup question.
Or how would you have handled that moment?
I mean, like you said about LL Cool J. Come on, Jamie. Well, you did a couple of them about Bait, the movie Bait, and some other movies he did that, you know, didn't do that well. I don't really know. I mean, I don't really know, to be honest with you. I'd have to. You remember that? You talking about that time or now? Like, I don't. You know, like.
You know the funny thing,
is there not enough white women in here for you, Jamie? You know.
You know the funny thing. The funny thing about that roast is that I was so caught off guard that I started saying other things about other people that got back to them that made it even worse. Like, you know, if you watch that roast, I said something about him, his hair being thin, and I referenced Steve Harvey in that. I was like, hey man, don't do like Steve Harvey and put the little thing. They got back to Steve Harvey, and he got upset. So I ended up having to say, Steve, I was fighting for my life, man. I wasn't trying to implicate you. I was nervous, man. I was nervous.
Yeah, you dirty boy. You made Steve Harvey take that hat off, boy. You ain't right, boy.
No, that's not the case at all.
Yes, you did. Yes, you the fault of that, man. Leave Steve. That's my dog, man. Come on.
You took it off and shaved it all off.
I love Steve. Nothing but love.
I do too, but damn it, you shouldn't have clowned.
No, man, I was nervous. I was so nervous that I couldn't think of anything. I started saying stuff that didn't even apply to Jamie. You know that. I started mixing up with other people.
Well, I think you did a great job. But how did you make that transition to continue and keep going after that moment?
You know, it wasn't that hard. You know, the funny thing about that was I had forgotten all about that roast. You know, the DVD had come out, and it was like an afterthought. And then all of a sudden, YouTube came out, and somebody posted, and then I started getting all of these things about, you know, just people calling me, man, I saw the roast, and I'm like, what is everybody talking about? What is everybody talking about? And then I saw it on YouTube or whatever. So it wasn't hard to go on afterwards. The hard part came in, you know, after it became a big success on the internet. And I, you know, in retrospect, I wish I had negotiated, you know, a better deal in terms of residuals and this and that, because that's all people remember about that roast. I mean, you could ask somebody right now who was on that roast. They only remember that, and for a while it was an embarrassment. But I'm gonna tell you, man, Tony Woods. We were doing Comic View out here. Tony Woods, comedian Tony Woods. I don't, you know, people can Google it.
We've had him on show last week. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Tony Woods, man, came up to me and he said, "Hey, man, let me talk to you for a second." And he probably doesn't even remember this. He pulled me to the side. He said, "Man, don't ever feel bad about that roast." He said, "I would trade places with you in a heartbeat." He said, "Man, you haven't truly used that to your advantage." He said, "Stop hiding and running from it and use it to your advantage." And, you know, this is the first time that and I've gotten over it. My kids have seen it, laughed or whatever, but you know, with Comedy Hype, this is the first time that I've gone into depth about talking about this roast. I've never done an in-depth interview about this roast until now.
Why is that?
You know, for a long time, I think that, you know, it was something that I wanted to bury, something that I wanted to put behind me, something that, you know, I looked at as a dark mark on my career. But if you read on my Instagram, I posted, you know, and a lot of times comedians post it to try to throw shade at me. You know, somebody will post it, this guy got destroyed, this guy, that got happened or whatever. And it's lost in the fact that I created a show. You know, D. Militant pointed this out to me. I'm the only Black comedian in history to ever create, produce, and host a show that ran for a comedy show that ran for 5 successful seasons on the network Stars. That, you know, that show, thank you, we launched the Stars Network. I don't have anything to show for it in terms of them, you know, coming back and reaching out to me, but we launched that network. But I gotta throw that in. But Tony Woods just pointed out to me, man, embrace it. And so, you know, I thought about what he said, and I was like, you know, you're right. You know, it's a part of your journey. And like I said, I wrote on my Instagram, you know, I'm a journalist, so I wrote a long thing about that, saying that, you know, LeBron, look at him. I mean, he's lost. I think LeBron is maybe, you know, 3-8 in the postseason or whatever. Only won 3, lost 8 or 9 or whatever. But they don't define his greatness. You know, moments where things didn't go your way or something bad happened to you on your journey, they either make you stronger or they stop you. And it definitely didn't stop me. It made me stronger. So, you know, I've started to embrace it. And I've gotten to a place, thanks to my wife, you know, all praise is due to my wife. My wife was just ride or die. And there have been many nights that, you know, I felt bad about that she picked me up, and my kids and my family. And I'm doing what I love now, man. I'm still doing what I love. I'm still taking care of my family.
Money.
And yeah, you know, so it's not a dark mark anymore. And I want that stated because people put that out every year. Like I said, they put that out thinking they're doing me a disservice. You can play it. You know, I'm to the point that where I can talk about it. It'll be a chapter in my book. So, you know.
Well, Doug, I'll tell you this much, Doug. Knowing you for all the years I've known you, I would really hate if someone watched that and just thought that's all you are. Because, like I said, you writer, producer, and you're an extremely funny comedian. And I'm not just saying it because you're on here, brother. I can just say, yeah, do your thing, bro. But you're an extremely funny comic. And I'd hate to be your career to be capsulized in that moment only. Like, oh, he's the one who got roasted. Okay, he got roasted, but you should go see him live. You should see his shows. I mean, or see what he's done. It's so much bigger than that moment. But some people will harp on that. It's a shame. If you out there harping on just that of his, you missing out on the big picture. That's what I would say.
And thank you, man. Thank you so much, Pierre, man. Much love to you. And, you know, it's crazy because people do that, man. People do that. I mean, instead of looking at my body of work, people like to just focus on that roast. And the crazy thing about it is, like I said, it was 20 years ago, man. People see me and act like the roast happened last week, man. They just, you know, so, you know.
Just embrace it.
Yeah, I embrace it now. You know, it's not a problem. This is, like I said, you guys are getting an exclusive. This is the first time that I've gone in depth with this interview about that. We did that in Vegas in like 2000. And let me tell you something. That was the longest plane flight back to LA after that roll.
yeah.
It's
only 45 minutes.
It seemed like 3 days. Whenever you have a bad set as a comedian, Pierre knows this, man. It is the longest run. It's the longest time until you get back on stage because it leaves an indelible stain in your thing. And it did that to me, man. Going back home. I mean, they had an after party after that. I went back to my hotel room. Now, Monique, I have to say, I didn't hang out. They had all the free food, all these. They had gift bags.
You want none of it.
None of that. But Monique, I'm gonna tell you, man, Monique is a soldier. Monique came to me and she would not let me hold my head down. She talked to me backstage. She just wrapped her arms around me after that. And I always appreciate her for the way she picked me up after that happened.
So to see people giving you your flowers now for, you know, keep pushing on, how does it make you feel to see those positive responses?
You know, it really is. I've taken this opportunity to use this now to inspire people, to encourage people, to tell people, don't ever let somebody rain on your parade, you know, because it's like Pierre said, I don't care how long you've been doing this, you know, once things happen, you're the new guy, you're the new face, you're the new hot thing or whatever. So I always tell people, don't let, you know, your career should never be defined by one thing anyway. It should be a collaboration of things, endurance, and it really has given me an opportunity to uplift my kids, to tell them, hey man, no matter how bad things get, you got to keep pushing. You got to keep going. People don't know with this show, I did this show with Martin Lawrence. It was called Martin Presents the First Amendment. I created the show. I brought Martin aboard. I went out and reached out to him and got him to come aboard. I put this deal together or what have you. So, you know, I say, and I always reluctantly say because I never like to put, you know, emphasis on me because it takes a village or whatever, but I'm using it now to indicate that you have to persevere. You have to get out there and keep going. And like I said, real quick, you know, I always liken myself to what Dr. Dre did. Look at what happened with him. He got screwed over by NWA. And then he went and he dealt with Shook. He got screwed over by that. But he kept going, and now look at him. He could have just stopped after NWA, or he could have stopped after Suge Knight and just say, hey, man, these guys are juicing him out.
Now he's getting screwed over with WIFE. Okay.
So he's got another chance. He got another opportunity to prove.
He can do
to prove that he can overcome. This might be his greatest challenge right here, though. Because I heard $2 million a month. So.
I'm gonna keep my mouth shut on that one. I'm
moved past Suge Knight on the depth chart of
okay.
Something that our followers were really interested in is what has Doug Williams been up to recently. So what are some things that you've been, you know, working on lately?
I just did a pilot with Joe Torre, Buddy Lewis, called Leon's Lounge. So we just shot that in Oakland about 2 weeks ago. My wife and I have a production company. We run a production company called DNA Media Productions. It stands for Doug and Ada. My wife's name is Ada. And we have a couple of projects that we've just completed that we're about to start taking out right now. One of them just won the TV festival, the Omnicultural TV Festival. In fact, you guys mentioned that we want a pre-show to that. If you go back and look at the story you did on this, you mentioned in that we won first place in that. So we're producing. You know, I did it before. I did it with Martin Lawrence Presents the First Amendment, and so producing and doing stand-up, and you know, I'm just having a blast, man. I'm just so thankful that God has given me, and I'm sure Pierre feels this way too, man. I mean, there's so many other things that we could have been doing, you know, but we're doing things that we love. You know, I watched Pierre. He did during the pandemic. He did a comedy show, you know, to uplift people, man. I just thought that was commendable. He did a comedy show right in his living room. Pierre doesn't have to do that. He's established. He's working. He did it out of the love of the game and out of just wanting to make people happy and give back. We do this. We're really like doctors. You know, they make doctors take an oath saying that, hey, don't be about the money. Be about saving lives. We do this like that. We do this out of the passion to make people laugh. You know, how many people have come up to you after the show, Pierre, and say, hey, man, my father just died from cancer. Or I got an operation coming up. And, you know, for that time you up there, you made me forget about that or whatever. And that's why we do what we do. And that's why I would never let something like a roast keep me from administering the medicine of laughter to the world or what have you. So that's what I'm doing. Also, you know, I got an announcement to make right here. I don't know if we can, you know, can I come out the drum roll? I'm going to be joining you guys. Hey, and see, this is what I'm talking about. This was a result of the roast. As a result of the roast, you guys running the story, the feedback from it. I got a job working with Comedy Hype News now. So I'm going to be a correspondent working with you guys. I'm so looking forward to this. I love the program.
To it as well.
You know, it's like ESPN with the, you know, comedy and entertainment or whatever. So I'm gonna be a roving reporter. You know, Pierre had told me the last week that we did that he was gonna be working with you guys or whatever. So, you know, instantly when I heard Pierre was gonna be a part of it, and now, you know, I'm gonna be a part. I love working with Pierre. Just, you know, we always find Pierre and I find some bizarre things to laugh at. You know, we always find some bizarre things laughing. We just did a cruise ship together, and it was Pierre's first cruise. And you talking about somebody fixing up the cabin. Pierre bought a picture of the beach and put
outside
a poster of the beach
in his
cabin, almost like you see those Corona commercials or whatever when they see them, you know, that's a backdrop in there. That's what Pierre turned his cabin into. So,
but what the reason that, hold on, tell her why, because I was in a dungeon with no windows
at the bottom of the ship.
It's called a tapestry. I
with
put
no
a tapestry on my wall. So it was the opening of a window out to the beach. So I felt like I was looking out to the beach in that little ass army outfit or college dorm and shit in the basement.
They put us with the Filipinos. We had to stay in the crew area. And the crew area is all for Pierre. Pierre and I probably were the only two people who spoke English down there. So they put us down. So that's what I'm saying, the power of the mind. Pierre came in and turned that. That's what I'm saying. You have to turn a negative into a positive. He turned that cabin into a little hidden oasis. He had a snack shop with chocolate. I mean, I went by his cabin every day just to get a snack, just to get something.
I know who to go on a
eat.
cruise with then. For Comedy Hype News, I'm Symphony Thompson. What you say, Pierre?
I'll be back tomorrow. Well, I ain't got nothing to do during Corona. I'm calling every day.